Hey guys, I'm John Setzler. Welcome back to Atlanta Grill Company. Today I'm going to fire up the Kamado Joe Classic, and I'm going to cook a rack of lamb ribs that I picked up from Porter Road. These things look amazing, and we're going to put kind of a North African flavor flair on these guys. So let's get started. And to introduce you to the star of today's show here, I have this rack of lamb ribs that weighs about 2 3/4 pounds. It's got a nice fat cap on this side, and off camera I've gone ahead and pulled off the membrane on here. That one was a little more challenging than most. And what I'm going to do to start with here is I'm just going to put a layer of salt on this meat, and I'm going to kind of pat that in. And we're going to salt both sides, but I'm going to flip this guy over, and the first thing I'm going to do up here is we're going to score this fat cap, and I'm going to put, just a diamond shaped crosshatch in this fat cap, and then I'm going to give this surface of the meat a nice salting as well. And what I'm going to do, we're just going to dry brine this guy. We're going to put this in the refrigerator. I want to go for at least 4 hours on this, which is about what I'm going to shoot for today. But if you can do this overnight, that would be good also. While those ribs are dry brining in the fridge, I've decided to go ahead and get my seasoning blend put together for this. And like I said, I'd like to use a North African style flavor to go on here. So I got out my spice or my flavor Bible book and started looking at what my options are. So here's what I came up with. The first thing I've got here is a tablespoon of granulated garlic. I've got a tablespoon of dried oregano, a teaspoon of ground cinnamon, and then I've got a teaspoon of allspice, a half a teaspoon of nutmeg, about a teaspoon of ground coriander, about a teaspoon of ground cumin, and I've got about a half a teaspoon here of ground Aleppo pepper. And I'm just going to take my fork and my shaker here and kind of give that a mix up, and that's what I'm going to use to season these ribs. And I highly recommend, if you don't already do this, some of these spices like the nutmeg, coriander, and cumin, I buy those whole, and I like to grind those fresh whenever possible in my mortar and pestle, because the aroma you get from that when you grind these right before you use them is unbeatable. So it's going to be about an hour or so here till I'm ready to cook, but I'm going to go ahead and get the Classic 3 fired up. I've got some charcoal in there and a few chunks of cherry wood to produce a little bit of smoke. So I'm going to close this up, and we're going to set the fireboard up to run this grill. So I've got the fireboard connected, and I'm going to set this guy up to run at about 250 degrees Fahrenheit today for this cook. My grill's just about up to temperature, so I've taken this guy out of the refrigerator, and I want to go ahead and start shaking on our spice mix that we made up. I'm not going to put a whole lot of this on the bone side, but I am going to pat that on there and let that start to adhere, and then I'm going to flip that bad boy over, and I'm going to shake most of the rest of what we made on top of this, and I'm just going to kind of pat that in. This stuff smells absolutely amazing. Like I said, grinding your own spices like this right at the time you're ready to use it really brings out the most in the aroma. So we're going to let that sit for a few minutes here while our grill finish is coming to temp. Guys, my grill's up to temp. I've got a nice fine smoke there coming out from those cherry chunks I put on that fire. So we're We're going to set this rack of ribs right here in the middle of the grill. We're going to let these guys slow cook probably for about 2 hours before I come back and have a look. I'm going to do a cook here similar to what I would do with beef ribs or pork ribs more specifically. I'm going to let these cook until we start to see some drawback on that bone, and then we're probably going to put them in a little foil at the next stage. We've been going for right at an hour here, so I wanted to open this up and take a peek. Oh yeah, that's looking good. It's coming together. We're going to give it probably at least another hour here before we come back and look again. Yeah, I'm pretty impressed with how these are looking right now. We're right here at the 2 hour mark, and we're starting to get a little pullback on the bones here. Let me spin this guy around where you can see that better. You can see it a little better here from the front on the smaller side. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to wrap these guys up in foil, and we're going to let them cook in foil for about an hour. So let me get that done. So I have pulled these off. I have wrapped them in a double layer of foil, and we're going to put those back on the grill, and the meat side is down here. I've got the bone side up, so we're going to give it another hour before we come back and have a look again. We've been on for another hour, so I've pulled these off, and we're going to roll that foil back and have a look. Oh yeah, those are looking really good. I want to see how tender they are. They should be getting real close. Yes, they are. These guys are almost perfectly tender, so we're going to put them back on the grill for a few minutes longer. So we're going to set these guys right back on here, and we got one more bit to deal with. All that juice that had collected in our foil, we got some of that fat. I'm going to pour that back on here. We're going to kind of baste a little bit with that. And those seasonings that kind of came off there, we're going to put those back on. That stuff's all still right here in this fat. I don't want to lose any of that. I want to get it right back on these ribs. And I've got a little bit more, so we'll save that till these are done. These are only going to stay on here for about another maybe 15 or 20 minutes. Okay guys, we've gone here for another 15 or 20 minutes, and I am totally happy with how tender this is. Oh yeah, it's just tender like butter. So I'm going to get this off of here. We're going to cover it with foil and let it rest for about 10 or 15 minutes before we cut it apart. Okay guys, I let these rest for about 15 minutes, and I went ahead and sliced these apart, and I'm going to take one off the end here. I want you to have a look at that. We're going to have a quick taste. Oh man. Guys, that's off the hook. That spice blend that we put on here is a keeper. I think I'm gonna actually write that one down and save it. That's got a beautiful flavor to it. I'm gonna try that on some other things, but man, these Porter Road lamb ribs are crazy good. Guys, you're gonna have to give this one a try. Let me know what you think. Until next time, this is John Setzler with Atlanta Grill Company.